Session. With that, I'm going to introduce and transition to Brian Grignon. He's the head of IT, like I said earlier, of Enersys in Americas. And again, I don't want to steal that thunder, but really looking forward to your session, Brian. So over to you.
Hi, I'm Brian Grignon, Senior Director of IT for the Americas at Enersys. I'm really excited to be here with you today. Fortunately, we couldn't be together in person, but really excited to get a chance to talk to you today virtually. And so thanks very much for attending and thanks for your time. Pretty excited today to get to talk a little bit about the idea of self-funding our digital initiatives. And especially in a post-COVID world, it's getting ever more difficult to get funding approved, especially for some of these larger scale or high dollar value type of IT digital initiatives. And while companies are especially now looking to cut back on costs or looking to reduce costs or looking to keep things flat, there seems to be an unending request queue for IT to still be able to transform and still be able to aid the business digitally and really help bring businesses forward. And so there's a bit of a dichotomy there, is how do we fund some of these initiatives we know we've got to get done. And there's no magic here, there's no alchemy. It's just a simple matter of looking at things a little bit differently, of approaching some things and thinking about things in a different way, and maybe even about changing the relationship you have with some of your other providers. So let's explore some of those options, and let's explore how some of these things can come about. So the idea of self-funding, or the idea of using the savings that you gain from one improvement to invest in another, isn't really uncommon in an industrial type of organizations, especially those manufacturing or industrial organizations that are going through lean transformations or have been down that lean journey, right? The idea, it's pretty simple. The cash that you save from the improvements that you make in your operation are then reinvest in that operation to continue that improvement. And sometimes this is called a continuous improvement cycle. The same could be applied really internally, and if you look at it at an IT department. A great example of this is a lot of organizations are looking to establish a cloud presence or move completely to a cloud. And if you take that as a large scale project and you say, we're gonna implement a cloud strategy, that's expensive. That costs money to have consulting, that costs money to get the licensing, and then you've got project plans and you've got resources, and so it's difficult to say, hey, I need X number of dollars right up front with no real benefit until the end of the project. A different way of looking at that might be, okay, well, how can we make our way and stage our way with cash savings into a virtual world? So a good example would be if you had 15 or 20 data centers, let's say, and you said, I'm going to shrink one or two. I'm going to take the cash that was otherwise spent on those operating expenses. So you're looking at internet services and those types of things, right? Co-location, whatever your fees are. And you push those to your cloud services provider. So you take that same monthly spend or same annual spend, whatever it ends up being, and you just shift those funds to the cloud provider. Now you've saved some money here, you've been able to rededicate it, and now you've got a platform to continue a continuous improvement migration of all of those, whether they're servers or data loads, whatever you want to call them, to the cloud. And each time you finish a small increment, or you move a data center, or you move a set of loads, you immediately take the cash that was being spent on that and you reapply it back to that platform. It self-funds the platform. Another option is you look at how you can self-fund some areas in the business. So self-funding doesn't have to be just IT, right? We can help empower the business to self-fund some of the things they want to do, or a portion of the things they want to do. Great example, large-scale projects often require business users to be dedicated to the project, right? So how can, and quite often it's difficult for our business partners to be able to dedicate the right and the quality resources to a project, because those are the people doing all the work. Those are the people who know how the business operates, who are too busy working and making this business successful day to day to take them away so that they can work on some of these digital improvement projects. So this is an opportunity for IT to help the business self-fund. We look at areas for improvement within the business, some business process automation tools that we can apply using internal staff that we may already have. We look at some business process reimagination type activities where we work directly with the business to help streamline, to help reduce, to help eliminate some of those tasks. And then those are small targeted projects that have predefined outcomes. And those predefined outcomes are generally savings in efficiency and in human capital resources. The idea then is we dedicate those savings from those human capital resources to go back into those digital initiatives. So if I have a customer service group, for instance, that is 15 people, and I know I can help streamline them to the point where they only need 11 people to complete the same work, can I take those 4 resources and put them on a project that's going to accelerate some sort of digital innovation within the business? That's really important. That becomes a partnership thing. It's where IT starts to come out of this. We're always spending money. We're that cost center, and we look at value. The key, though, to self-funding in these 2 instances is quick time to value. So instead of trying to say, I want to do a large project, what we can do is we can look at some of these projects and break them down into things that are going to immediately save money, implement the things that are going to have a very quick win or a high cash payback, and then dedicate that cash to fund the rest of the project. So what you're doing, yes, while at the end of the day, the project may take you 25% longer or 30% longer to totally complete, you're moving the value to the beginning of the process. And by doing that, there's no discussion about how much money it costs, because you've saved money instantly, and then you're able to use that money to fund the additional savings, and it becomes, in essence, an agile project, right? It becomes, they all tend to sound the same as we start talking through the concepts, but it's the same principle. It's that shortened time to value that allows you to take those immediate savings and continually improve and continually progress on that digital transformation or that digital initiative all the way through the roadmap to the end. The last place we can look, and not the last place, but another area that we could look, I guess, is really in our relationships with our partners. Just a few years ago, the real common way of finding a partner to help you do anything, whether that's an ERP implementation or whether it's a migration to Office 365, or even if it's a large scale PLM, or it doesn't really matter. We would start these projects as these large projects. We'd build big project plans and we'd have milestones, and then we'd go and try to get an appropriations request approved, or go to management and try to get approval for the money to spend this kind of money. And often we would go and work with partners who would want to do time and materials, or they would want to do a fixed fee for a series of work. I challenge that now. At least for me, and I'm sure for many of you, we're not judged on the number of hours that we work. We're certainly not judged on the lines of code or the number of email boxes we create, but we are judged on the value that we bring to the organization. So shouldn't our partners be judged or be compensated on the value that they bring to our organization? One of the things we can do is start to structure some of these engagements that we have with our third-party partners so that their remuneration for their work is tied directly to the success of the project that they're working on. If it's a cost savings initiative, is there some way to share that cost savings with those partners? Is there some way to, hit a specific milestone that says, we'll unlock certain payment rates based on certain performance factors of the business? And that gives us kind of 3 big levers. The first big lever is it puts us on a common framework with our suppliers and with our vendors and with our partners that says, hey, we are really dedicated to mutual success. So the projects that these service providers or these partners will work on should always be focused on the outcome, not on materials and time and billable labor, but about the outcome that they're going to bring to the business. So it gets everybody aligned on it's time to focus on outcome. The second piece is it becomes a lower capital expenditure for an organization. It's never going to be 100% self-funded, right? It's never going to be perfect, but what it does is it takes some of the difficulty in that barrier to entry of having to spend a lot of money up front by giving our partners some incentive and then using the savings to actually pay those partners back or pay those partners in general, rather than trying to come up with cash to spend up front. And then really the last thing it does is it makes everybody accountable to themselves, right? So when we work on these things with the business and with our partners, it says, hey, we're signing up, we're saying this is the benefit we want to achieve. We're going to work towards those milestones, and then we have to achieve it. We have to push back, and we have to make sure that those savings that we said are actually being done. Otherwise, we can't use that cash to reinvest, and we can't use that cash to pay our partners, and we're back in that cycle. So I think that the biggest key to take away from this is the idea of self-funding requires us to really take a step back and start to think about what are we trying to solve? How can we look at these projects as quicker time to value with very measurable and agreeable metrics for success that work on a shorter time frame and give us the ability to say, we agree we're going to save this money and that we're going to go ahead and reinvest that. It brings IT to a closer partnership with the business as well. It requires us to have an open communication with finance and explain our methodology and our mechanism and what we're looking to do. It requires us to have a much more open communication with our business partners to say, we're going to sign up for these savings and these savings are going to be used to fuel more and more of these digital initiatives. And it puts accountability and it actually puts a value on IT. Once we start this communication mechanism, we start using these funds, we can go back now and we'll be able to track all of these successes and all of these cost savings initiatives and all the leverage we've been able to do by demonstrating that our budgets stay relatively flat, but our benefits and our value to the business increases. And what that does is it gives us as IT leaders a greater sense of ownership into the outcome of the organization. But really, we become that true business partner. Those groups are going to come to you more and more and are going to ask for those solutions because you've been able to demonstrate that you understand the business needs of cost reduction and of simplification, and that you're not just trying to stick a technology in because it's the right thing to do or it's new or it makes sense, but that these technologies that we're working with actually have proven business benefit and actually are funding themselves, right? Or actually pushing themselves to be really what is transformative. And that's the idea behind a digital transformation. It's not that we implement all these systems and we radically change the business. What it's about is that we transform the business to run more efficiently, more effectively, with less upfront cost, more savings on the back end, and we then can take some of these initiatives and some of this value that we've created, and we build that political capital as well. I wish I could say it's easy. I wish I could say it's something that there's a magic wand that I even do well, and it's not. This is a continuous thing. It's a continuous improvement program. It's a new muscle. It's a new way of looking at things, or it's a different way of looking at things. Even it may not be new to some of you. It may be something you've always done. So in closing, I think it's really important to think about these IT initiatives and these projects that we want to do as business projects instead of as IT projects. They should be focused on the value that they provide to the organization. They should be helping to drive the overall strategy of the business. And internal, there will always be the internal needs. There will always be those must-do projects. There will always be those projects that will require funding up front for regulatory compliance or even just for business needs. But the idea is that if we can move more and more of our projects into a model where there's shorter time to value, the cash that's saved is reused and reapplied back into driving further innovation, it becomes a perpetual model that then just continues to drive innovation. And there's a lot less communication and conversation about how much it costs and about how difficult it is to get funding for our projects, because those projects are able to demonstrate value almost immediately, and then they can continue because the value is already there and the savings are already realized. So I hope this was a thought-provoking idea for you folks. I really appreciate your time today. I'm really excited and thankful to have been asked to speak with you today and to present today. I'm sure that there's ways that the organizers will allow you guys to get in communication with us. So if you do have additional questions or you'd like to speak about this further, I look forward to those questions. And I just want to say thank you all so much again for your time, and I wish you the best on your journey to self-funding.
Thanks, Brian. That was great. The thoughts you shared even more relevant today than ever before. We all recognize the need to continuously innovate, but making sure that your organization is set up for funding those initiatives and self-funding it, like you said, in many cases, whether it's cloud, whether it's ERP, whether it's modernization, or any of your digital initiatives around intelligent enterprise is super critical. I know that Enersys leverages SAP and Salesforce and many such platforms, and enabling your digital innovation globally is a critical imperative. So this is great. I think we can all adopt many of those right away, and I'm sure there's a few follow-ups that you'll get from the session. With that, I'm just going to close this keynote with a few final thoughts, and leave you with